This is the Illimitable Experience podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Illimitable Experience podcast. If you're watching this video, like this video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel. We are posting great content regularly. With that, today we have as a guest a sports psychologist. Hi Parinaaz, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Parinaaz, before we start, get to the main part of it, I always had the intention of recording an episode with a sports psychologist because I think it is an upcoming niche that people are getting into, and now that sports is also growing, so it was a good niche. I had connected with many, sports psychologists and everything. But one thing that really fascinated me about your profile was the way that you had rebranded your profile. So you stood out for the crowd for me, and I was like, okay, let's record an episode with her. And today we are finally doing this. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for choosing me out of the entire bunch because I did have a word with you to understand what made me stand apart. But I'm really glad that I can share my experience with you, and thanks for reaching out. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So Parinaaz, for people who will be listening this for the first time, can you tell us who you are and how did you get into being the work that you're doing right now?
Sure. So I am a sport and exercise psychologist, and as I've also I come under the realm of performance psychology. So sport has been something that I've done since I was 6 years old. I used to play badminton and handball for my school, and then that progressed. And I've also trained in taekwondo for 10 years. So sports been a consistent uh, part of my life. It's been a major part of my life. And when I started off my undergraduation in psychology, there was this itch I always had. I want to learn more. What makes us who we are? Like, why do we behave the way we do? So that's where my psychology journey started. And because I couldn't continue sport as an athlete, I really wanted to merge both my passions of sport and psychology. And today, here we are. I've completed my master's from the UK, and I'm working as a full time consultant right now based in Mumbai. I'm really enjoying my work because it's my passion, because I love what I do. And being able to create that impact in the lives of athletes, because that's their career, and any way or shape or form I can add that value to them and help them reach their potential, I'm happy. And that's where my goal is right now.
Wow. I mean, there are a few surprises as well that you just dropped right now, that you have done taekwondo for 10 years. And you have been handball player. Is that what you said? Handball player?
Handball and badminton. Badminton's my primary sport, but yeah, handball is like a school.
Wow. So I think we'll talk about that also a little bit. So, Parinaaz, uh, uh, was it right from the beginning when you were completely a sports person that you want to do psychology, or was that a decision that you made in the journey of uh, studying?
I think psychology and was a decision that came up after my schooling. Obviously, I was really interested in it, and I couldn't, as I mentioned, I couldn't get to a place where I could compete as an athlete. So I then realized that there is a field known as sports psychology, which is emerging. Which in the West it uh, had been emerging for quite a few years, not in India that much. So I was really interested to know more about it, and I did an internship in Mumbai before I went for my masters. Got a hang of कि क्या होता है, क्या कर सकते हैं, what is the kind of work that I'm supposed to do, and that's where my interest peaked. Then I went for my masters, and that's where I fell in love with it, and now really that's where I am.
Uh, and when the sports that you have played, at what level were you able to play? Was it at a state level, national level?
Not at a very high level like the states, but I was playing for my university, went up to the zonal levels. Was I was playing competitively, like in competitions, but not at a very great level.
And about taekwondo, do you still practice taekwondo?
By myself, yes, yes. But I have not been going and training that frequently.
Wow. So such an all-rounder guess. I mean, I think we'll have to do another episode just to get, cover your taekwondo and other sports journey. But let's just stick to what we are doing right now. So, what was your course like when you went to study the sports psychology? Was it completely focused on sports and improving the performance of the sportsman, or was it a general psychology and then you just improvised yourself and got into sports?
Okay. So the masters that I went for was specialized masters in sport and exercise psychology. So it
Mm,
started off completely within that realm. So
mm,
it focused on the field in general, and I also worked during my masters with a football team that was based on my campus. And I
mm,
also got an internship with British Athletics, which is the gold standard organization for athletics in Britain. So
mm,
I had the opportunities to work alongside studying. So it was completely sports specific. And there is also another field which is the exercise bit of psychology. So it's called sport and exercise psychology. So the exercise bit I've also been working upon with a faculty based in the UK, and I'm a part of a community who is talking a lot about exercise psychology, how people get, what's their relationship with fitness, with exercise, how does it impact their mental health, and vice versa. So I think that both those things came to light during my master's, and I've been
mm,
pursuing both in different ways. But yeah, that's what.
mm, mm. So, Parinaaz, I don't know if you know this, but there is this famous Canadian psychologist named Jordan Peterson. And he has gone on to talk about how the intelligence of a person is more, or maybe, or should I say, more robust uh, who exercises than the person who does not exercise. So, can you put some light on it if you have studied that? Is there really a correlation between your intelligence or your robustness of the mind with when it comes with relation to the exercise?
Okay. This firstly is something that I haven't studied personally in how exercise is related to IQ. It's definitely related to your mental health and how your obviously your physical health. As humans, we activity is something that's primary for us to keep us going, to keep us
Mm,
healthy. And as in when we face new challenges, we think about situations in a different way. So what is IQ? IQ is basically your ability to solve problems, your ability to face challenges and get across, right? So probably when you are exercising, it makes sense that um, your body is functioning at an optimal level. Your muscles, your brain is also muscles, right? The way you use it, the more you use it, the better it is. So I think that's how exercising is related to your mental
mhm,
health and your brain health, basically. But I'm not sure about the IQ bit. It's not an area of my expertise. But the more you
mhm,
exercise, I'm sure you've heard that your neurotransmitters and your hormones are helping you, your dopamine hit, etc. So all of these things are on a very biological level,
mm.
and they help you be consist. They help you be fitter
I
and
think,
healthier over a
yeah, I
period.
think the word you're looking for is it does not make you completely obsolete your mind. Like if you look at a person who's somewhat in his 40s or her 40s and who has never exercised in his life, the promptness with which that person can solve is definitely slower than a person who regularly has been exercising in his or her life.
Right.
Um, yeah, so that says it. Now, Parinaaz, as now let's dig into what we are going to talk about before. Uh, as a sports psychologist, if a sportsman comes to you, what is your duty and the degree that you hold? How much of does the impact does it have on the work that you'll be doing with this ex-sportsman? Like, where do you start exactly?
Um, it's fairly straightforward to
Hmm.
give you a longer answer to this. So, what is sports psychology? Sports psychology is where you're using psychological principles to help people in the sporting arena. Basically, it's a niche
Hmm.
of psychology, right? So, when you think of sport, you always think of it as something that you're doing with your body, which you are, obviously. But whatever is happening on the field is happening first in your mind. The way you're thinking about sport, the way you're approaching it, the way you're feeling. Imagine an athlete who is going on the field and saying to himself or herself that I'm going to do my best and I am going to give the best performance of my life. Versus
Hmm.
an athlete who says that I don't know how I'm going to do. The opponents are really tough. I don't think I'm going to
Hmm.
be able to win. These thoughts. So if you compare them, you will obviously feel that the first athlete has more confidence, has more focus on what he or she is doing than the latter one, right?
Hmm.
So that's coming back to it. It's about the way you're approaching your sport, the way you're thinking about it. What's your mindset? So that's where my work comes in. As a sports psychologist, my first goal is to understand the athlete, where he or she is coming from. There's nothing right and wrong. Every
Hmm.
person has their own experiences. Every person has had a different upbringing, childhood, sporting journey. They've had
Hmm.
different experiences, and that's what's molding their mindset. The coach, the environment in which they train really impacts the way they approach their sport as well. So I first want to understand where they're coming from, what has been their journey, what are their strengths, because psychology is really associated with this thing of I have an issue or there's a problem I need to solve. It's so that's something that I don't want the athlete to think. You need to understand your strengths as well. What is helping you each and every day? So that's
Hmm.
where so the first thing I do is I become aware of, sorry, I want to know what the athlete, who the athlete is. And second is for the athlete to become self-aware. What do they do on field? How do they approach their training similarly? So
Hmm.
that's where we start out. It's just a needs analysis kind of, that's what we call it. We get to
Hmm.
know the athlete, um, and then on basis of that we figure out if there are some areas where we can work on to help them push themselves from this level to this level, because at the elite level, especially at the elite level, the physical capacity is kind of plateau. Like everybody is
Hmm.
at a very similar skill level, but what sets them apart is their mental skills, and that's what we want to push. So probably that the initial needs analysis helps us see if we can push that further to get them to their potential. So
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
in a nutshell what we do.
Right. The example that you gave, that there are two types of sports, and one is quite confident that I'm going to do my best, and other is not so confident. Now, in that case, doesn't the past performance of his own self or the career or she or had has had so far also, uh, what should I say, molds the confidence he or she has? So how do you determine that if I decided, okay, let's say I haven't been performing very well since 3 years in cricket.
Mhm.
So I just cannot just wake up today and tell myself that I'm going to do my best and it is going to manifest itself on the field. So how do you deal with this dilemma?
Right. A very good point, because your confidence is your biggest source of confidence is your previous accomplishments. Whatever you have achieved
Mm,
obviously adds to that feeling of self-belief and self-confidence, right?
mm,
Now you ask me that if somebody is not really faring well, then how does he or she feel confident? But let's dial it back and see what is it that they define as success, or what is the win, because it's not always winning the championship or coming first in the race or winning the world, like at the world level.
World
It's
Cup
not
level, yeah.
always about that. Yeah, it's not always about the end goal. It's also
Mm,
about how you've been progressing. It's about So small wins that you can do. If for a consistent amount of time you've been able to do something well, that's a win as well. And that's where we need to not only look at the bigger picture, but we also need to look at the small progress. And that's the small tweak of a mindset that helps the athlete feel कि ठीक है आज मैंने at least इतना goal hit किया है. So for example, when I work with cricketers, their usual goal is to like I want to bowl at like a 90 mph or something, right? Now, if today they are at a 60 and if they have not hit a 90, they feel underconfident. But it's a journey, it's a progress. So the process is what we focus on. कि एक week के बाद चलो, if you have improved even a 2 mph, that's a lot. Let's just take an example. But that's good. That's progress, right? Even on the days where you didn't feel like you want to get up and go for training, and you did well, why not? Why not take that as a win and take that as something that will boost your confidence?
Right. And again, taking this example again, a person who has not performed for 3 years and is willing to improve versus the person who has been performing. So who do you find it easier to deal with when it comes to improving? Because this is, I'll tell you what I want to know numerically. For a person, let's take example of studies now. Okay, for a person to improve from, let's say, a 60 percentage to a 70 percentage in the semester is relatively easier because there is a huge scope of improvement.
Yeah.
Versus the person who has been consistently scoring 92 or 93 percentage, okay, in all his exams. For him or her to go from 92 to 95 or 97, the scope of improvement is very less. So which is the easier ones to deal with, or the approach goes the same? You understand my question, right?
Yeah, I do. See, the improvement is going to be tougher for, not tougher, like as you said, from 90 to 92, that change is going to require a completely different change in mindset. From a 91 to 92 will be very different from a 94 to 95 as well, because there needs to be a different mindset of how you're approaching it, as compared to a 60 to a 60 to 70. The approach again still remains it's similar, because at the end of the day, the goal is growth. How you grow, what you're focusing on is different. So for an athlete who is just a grassroots level athlete, for him, the growth level can be exponentially quick because they may not have considered a sports psychologist. So just having a few sessions with a sports psychologist and getting a different mindset can boost your performance. Getting a nutritionist on board can improve your physical health. Right? Getting a sports strength and conditioning coach. So these chote cheeze will lead to bigger changes when you are new in it. But when you're a seasoned player, when you're an elite athlete who's already been doing this consistently over a period of time, the growth may not be that quick, but it'll always be there, because in sport there is no 100%. Like there is nothing 100% pahunch gaye, so that's the end. There's always scope for improvement, and there is always a next goal that you can set, even if it's the world, even if it's the Olympic level that you have achieved at, the not only a personal best but the world record that you've broken. You can still go beyond that, and that's again a mindset thing. There is one interesting thing that I have learned, that when you feel that you've arrived, that's the end, that's when you're not going to progress any further and you probably will falter. So we want to keep pushing the athletes to seeing that, okay, that's a goal that you've reached. What's the next thing that you can do? What's the best thing you can do out of your sporting career? That's it. That's the goal.
Yeah, I do understand that. A long time ago, I read something on the similar lines that at the most elite level, it's not about the discipline. It's not about hard work. It's not about, the external factors. At the elite level, everything is an art. Because if you have already reached an elite level, which means you have ticked all the boxes: hard work, consistency, mental strength, etc., etc. but what you do when you reach at the top is what differentiates you from the rest of the crowd. I think of it. No, yeah, I read it some time ago. Now.
Even even when you reach to that elite level, I think that hard work and consistency that got you there, if you don't continue it, you are going to be a beginner very soon. So you will not remain at the elite level. So it's success is something that needs to be consistently done. You be at any level, elite or non-elite. That's what I believe.
Let's take this ahead a little bit. When you said that if you're performing at the most elite level, now let's take example of Virat Kohli. Now we'll take the real examples, okay, and try to break it down a little bit. Virat Kohli, who has done, but possibly achieved everything there is to achieve in the field of cricket. Now, for him, what would you say that if he feels that he has already achieved everything, does that mean his downfall starts tomorrow? Or will he be his progress will be more linear rather than upwards?
Now, if he believes that he has achieved everything in sport, it's going to be at the choice of the athlete, to be very honest, what happens next. Because if any athlete, consider Virat Kohli itself, if he believes that he has achieved everything and again he has arrived, then the plateau starts or even a valley. We don't know. It can dip or it can stay consistent.
Hmm.
I, in my opinion, elite athletes have a different mindset to it where they are not satisfied however much they have achieved. It's always like kuch aur kar sakte hain. Like there is another level to it. Even if he's been the captain, even if he has broken records, I'm sure he's got another goal in mind. There is another thing to work towards. When you reach a certain level in sport or in life, there's always a thing that, okay, if I have reached here, what if I can help others also get there? So that can be your next goal. Okay, I can mentor or supervise budding athletes. As simple as that in my own team. So that
Hmm.
can be a different goal. So
Hmm.
I don't think there comes an end again. And I hope he doesn't see it that way as well, because they are an elite for a specific reason, and that's what keeps them going.
Hmm. Now, Parinaaz, with regards to your work, when you said that you work with athletes, uh, what does it mean when you work that you work with athletes? Do you, because I know I have many psychologist friends, so I know what is the setup of a psychologist looks like, right? For you, does that mean that you have to go out on the field, you have to constantly observe your client who is playing on the field and then make remarks, or this, or I don't know what else is the process, but how does it work when an ex client comes to you?
Yeah, yeah. It's actually a fun process to be within sports psychology, because you can, yes, go observe the practice sessions as well as matches, because we need to see what's the difference, what's happening in their body language and their performance both ways.
Mm,
So that's one that, yes, we do travel to their clubs or academies wherever they're training. I have an athlete who internationally represents the country, so I can see live matches and see what his or her performance is, and then give comments based on that. Our next session goes on to discuss what happened during the match, etc. So yeah, there is a lot of on-field work, but
mm,
apart from that, there's quite a lot of online sessions that we do. Also meet
mm,
the athlete in person at their gym or yeah, wherever they train, etc.
mm.
Not a very
Okay.
clinical setup, but it depends on the psychologist as well how they like to operate.
Right. And then the next question would be, since you are an independent psychologist working with this ex-athlete, and obviously the player has probably a batting coach, a bowling coach, a strength and conditioning coach, gym trainer alag.
Hmm.
So when there are individuals assigned for a particular, aspect of the person's fitness and well-being, what are the chances that there is a conflict of interest with you and the person who is specifically assigned to it? Like when you said, okay, let's take example of Virat Kohli again. Let's assume that Virat Kohli is your client, and
Hmm.
Rahul Dravid told him X thing, but you, when you noticed him on the field, you observed something else. and you asked him to not to do that thing. तो अभी conflict of interest आ गया ना, तो फिर वैसे situation में how do you deal with it?
uh, Working in a team like this is very exciting, and I've been in such a team as well. There are experts in, as you mentioned, there are nutrition experts, coaching, different coaches, etc. Now, the athlete is at the center of this entire circle.
Correct.
Whatever we all experts are doing is for the athlete to perform the best. So now, as an expert and as a professional, I have to make sure that I am in communication with all the other experts as well. Because as you said, if there is a conflict that's going on and there's a direct conflict, like I'm telling him to do X and somebody else is telling him not to do X only. So if that's the kind of a situation, uh, I do want to know from the athlete. I think that the relationship needs to be built with the athlete where they can come to us and tell us that आपने ऐसा बोला था पर मेरे कोच ने ऐसा बोला तो what's the situation. So then my job is to have a three-way, at least a first one-to-one conversation with the coach, get their perspective, because उनके भी दिमाग में there's a thought process going on. They know better from their angle. So we've got to work as a team together. If there is no communication between the psychologist, the nutritionist, and all the entire expert team and the coach, obviously, then that's where the athlete feels confused and the effectiveness of our work reduces. So I definitely consider that very important to have a communication going around.
Okay, now, so after communicating, is there a certain solution that you come up with, like a compromise, or is it always right or wrong? Like if Parinaaz says X, it has to be followed. If the coach says X, then it has to be followed.
That's a complex question, to be honest. We all are different people. We all deal with conflicts in a different way. Like, for example, an athlete who has worked with his coach for 10 years and the coach has been doing everything for him. Be it his physiotherapist, the coach is the physiotherapist, the coach is the psychologist, the coach is the nutritionist. Kal jaake, if I come in as an external expert, my relationship with the athlete will be different. His openness to me will be different. And how much leeway the coach is going to let me have in that context is also going to be different. So there is no right and wrong. There is no fixed answer to your question. But the most that we can do is put forth our points and keep, again, the athlete is the focus. It's not about you being the coach and being right and me being the psychologist and being right. It's not about being right and wrong. It's about who is the person at interest, and that's the athlete. I come from a psychology background. I may have some insights which the coach may not have. And similarly, I often talk to my athletes about their nutrition, but it doesn't mean I'm going to sit and tell them ki aap ye khao ya go on a keto diet or something. I don't do that. That's not my area of expertise, but I do still have a conversation to understand what's happening with them. So that understanding needs to be from all sides. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, you try your best and keep the athlete's interest at heart.
Okay. Athlete is at the center of the. Okay, I got it. Now, Parinaaz, you have talked about your work a lot, and I think you have told us everything, that there is the how you work and everything. Now, let's dive into the terms of your work. Now, what is the meaning of peak performance or optimal performance for a layman? Or I have a philosophical take as well. And the philosophical take is insecurity the biggest factor to gain optimal results? Let's take an example here. If somebody is a billionaire, now the fact that he or she has become a billionaire, which means he knows how to make money. Okay, and obviously with that 1 billion, the person is certainly not going to be satisfied. He or she wants to make a 2nd billion, then the 10th billion, then the 15th billion. So does insecurity factor in, or is insecurity the only reason people achieve optimal results? We
Okay.
can break it down. There is no issue
Yeah.
to answer it, in a like a huge essay chunk. We'll just go break down the question and then you can answer it.
Yeah. Yeah. From this is completely my perspective on what is optimal performance or peak performance. Every task that we are assigned, we approach it from the experiences, the mindset, and the ability that we have today, right? Now, today I may have only this much amount of experience or thinking capacity or whatever it is. So I'm going to try and give my best in that. That's my peak performance on that day. Can it improve? There is no limit or there's no end to it, as I always keep mentioning. But what happens is, even if my experiences and ability tell me that I can perform at this level, there is a lot of other distractions that come in, usually mentally, when we self-doubt, when we think what others are going to think, or all those negativity that comes into our mind, that stops us from achieving even that level of performance at that point in time. So, what my point behind peak performance is that I want to know you as a person so that we can understand what is your current level of performance, your ability level, and your hard work you're putting in. What is the current level that you can hit, and how consistently you can hit that. So, then we can improve. Improvisation is a separate concept, if I'm making sense so far. So that is what optimal performance or peak performance for me right now in my head sounds like.
Can I just reiterate to for my
Yeah.
better understanding? Now I mean, abstractly, it is not possible me to not. I did not understand, so I'm going to use figures here. So
Yeah.
let's say I'm a guy who scores 50% in exams. Okay, and my target is to go from 50 to 60%. So the day I achieve, or over a period of 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 6 months, whatever the time frame we have decided, the day I achieve that 60%, that is my optimal performance, right?
Okay. Uh, I will I will try and put it in those numbers. So
Okay.
if you are currently able to score 50%, now based on your past achievements. So let's not just take one experience of 50%. Let's take an average of the past experiences of how much you've been able to do, how much work ethic you have currently. Are you starting like 2 hours a day and then expecting that you're going to jump to a 70%? So your past experiences plus your current work ethic is going to determine the probable optimal performance that you're going to have. That's at a 55, maybe. Let's say.
Okay.
Right? Now, that work ethic may, there'll also be some amount of psychology and self-belief and self-confidence that comes into play. So now the mental side of this thing is what we take care of. That are you stopping yourself from achieving your potential in the first place? If you have the currently, it's not the top potential, it's the current potential. If you've got of a 55, for example, then are you even achieving that much? What is stopping you from achieving even that much? And is that related to your life situation? Sometimes life gets in the way and you can't achieve it. And we keep telling ourselves that, oh my God, I'm not worth it, or this and that. But there's so many things happening in our lives, so we can't sometimes achieve it. So the psychology side of this thing is what we take care of optimal performance. If this makes sense?
Yeah, somewhat. But in the process, I'll understand better.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it. So it is the past plus the present, what I'm able to do, that determines the optimal thing. Okay. So when such a person comes to you, right? We'll just continue with this example. Okay, a person who is scoring 50 comes to you and says, "Okay, like I'm aware of my potential and I want to achieve 60." This is one case. Second case is the person sets an unrealistic goal कि मुझे 50 से directly 90% पे जाना है. So in that case, uh, do, because obviously now if the person is seeking for professional help from you, the person wouldn't want self-doubt from you itself. So in such a case, how do you help the person set a more realistic goal?
Mm. Yes. Uh, my my job as a psychologist is not only to support them in their journey, but also to be a person who can be realistic with them. So that's where the relationship building is very important in for me with a client. It's
Mm,
not only always about me pumping them up and telling them they can do their best, but also giving them the reality of the situation.
mm,
So I may approach it from a different way and tell them that ठीक है आपको अगर 60 से 90 जाना है, tell me what would a 90% student be doing at this point in time. What would it require for you to reach a 90%? So he would list down like I'd have to work 8 hours a day. I mean, study 8 hours a day, give this much tests. I should have some amount of there is intelligence in this mix as well. It's not
mm.
only always hard work. There is also
Correct.
intelligence in the mix. So we'd consider all of those factors. We'd break it down and we'd see and compare where he is right now and can he do it with his current situation. If he believes that during this conversation, usually the athlete understands or the client understands, but if not, then it is my job to
Mm,
to give them the reality check as well that such big a jump may or may not be possible. I also need
mm,
to know if it's possible or not. The person may be really smart and uh, able to achieve a 90% as well. Who knows? For that, I need
mm,
to have good backing knowledge. I need background knowledge. I need a proper needs analysis, is what I was talking about, and get to
mm.
know where they stand, and then we set the next steps forward.
Next steps, okay. Hmm. Now I want to know, since you said that your job is not only to pump up the client, uh, my perspective on the word motivation has been quite critical. I have no belief in the term motivation, the word itself, because I think motivation is quite a short term remedy to get things started. On the contrary, I feel the word should be replaced with the word motivation should be replaced with the term vision, which is a much bigger picture, and that keeps you chasing that. There is something that the person is chasing a goal which is bigger than today, tomorrow, or 3 months, 2 years, 5 years down the line. So, what is your take on motivation? Is it a real thing, or is it like not non-effective when you deal with people? Like motivation can be, watching motivational videos. That is my perspective of motivation. Or somebody saying, "अरे तू कर सकता है, तू कर सकती है," जाके करना. But that's a very short-term strategy. So what is your take on this motivation funda?
Yeah. So motivation is your it's a process. First of all, it's not that I'm motivated. Okay, that's it,
Mm,
and everything's going to fall into place. But it's a process. People usually assume I need to be motivated before I start a task.
mm,
That may not always be true. It builds up in the process as well. Now to get back, motivation comes from the word. I mean, it comes from motive. Basically, what is the reason why you're doing a particular task? So for some people, they do tasks for enjoyment. They love to do it. It's giving them some satisfaction, or there's, as you said, there's a vision behind it. For some people, they may want the praise and the rewards and the
mm.
everything that's
External.
external to it. Yeah, so that's
Mm,
where we divide them broadly into internal and external motivation.
mm,
So again, what is your motive needs to be understood. Why are you really doing something? Because as you said, motivation is temporary. Today you may have it, tomorrow you may not, and it's, as you said, short term. Uh, what keeps you going is discipline.
mm,
Motivation can get you started, but discipline is going to keep you there. Tomorrow morning, as an athlete, I may not be motivated to get up at 5 in the morning and go for training for the nth time, for the nth year that I've been training. But what keeps me going is one, the discipline that I've said. I know it's a routine, I have to do it. Okay, I may not do it at 100% of my energy today. I may do it at 80%. It's fine, but I'll do it. Second is the vision. The vision is what's going to drive you. You can have different words, the vision, purpose, or whatever it is for the athlete or the goal, and that keeps them going. So overall motivation exists for sure. There is a reason why you are doing something. You've got to be aware of it. And as you said, it's short term. So you've got to keep in place certain systems, certain habits that get you over the line, even if you're motivated or not. Tomorrow morning, you can't be like, I need to be motivated to brush my teeth. It doesn't work that way. It's a habit for you. You're going to do it anyways. It's a discipline, right? So there are certain things you can put into your daily systems or daily rituals, which just happens because you have set the goal, right? You want to be the top athlete. These are the things you've got to do. You want to be a clean person. You want to smell good. You would brush your teeth in the morning anyways. So it's kind of like that. The goal is set and you do the systems and you keep your daily habits accordingly.
I think when you broke down the word motivation into, it comes from motive, I think that cleared out a lot of the my question on it, because exactly, people do have motives, which is and my perception about motivation was, oh, somebody's watching a motivational video on YouTube, or somebody's just, that's what we call pseudo motivation. I mean, there is an entire industry on this content creation industry that people just give away just random words, and it feels good to hear, but at the end of it, there are no results. And I think people are getting aware of the pseudo motivation part as well. Now, again, when we, yes.
Just to mention that when you watch a motivational video, it works because it's giving you a different perspective. It's giving you that energy. Probably you feel energized as well. But it doesn't stay probably consistent is because one, you've not set daily routines to get there every single day. And there's no goal. There is nothing that you're working towards. Probably today you feel like, oh, okay, I got that energy and I'm going to try doing it again. But that goal needs to be set and there needs to be daily habits into it as well. So both the things are as essential.
That's important. Now we move. Now the second part of the question, where I asked that, is insecurity the biggest or the only factor that motivates a person to improve?
Coming.
I mean, just before you start, how do you see insecurity as? Do you see insecurity as a negative emotion, or do you see insecurity as a positive emotion?
Insecurity is coming from a place of core value. From the core, it's fear. It's fear of losing something. So insecurity is coming from a core of fear, right? When you think that you are insecure of, for example, a relationship, because you're scared or there is a fear attached that you're going to lose that person from your life. Now, is it valid? Is it in reality? Is there actual reason for it? Or is there no reason for it? Is a different conversation altogether. But at the core of insecurity is that there is some fear of losing something. Now, fear can be a very, very strong motivator. And that's why, as you asked me, insecurity is often a very strong motivator for people to keep doing something because they are scared that they'll lose out on it. Now, that's coming from a scarcity mindset, that there is only limited resources, there is only limited people that can achieve something. So I'm going to keep pushing my best. And if I lose that position in the world, then I am something. I'm nobody, or whatever happens in their mind. There are different thought processes. Now, that's a scarcity mindset. Abundance mindset talks about that there is enough for everyone to achieve in their own right. So if you operate from an abundance mindset, you are more accepting of the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs of life. You're more okay with competition. Okay, as Simon Sinek talks about the infinite game, infinite
Hmm.
minds. It's about, it's not about playing a game just in the middle. What impact are you creating? What is that main vision that you're working towards? So it's more big. It's abundant. Everything is there for everyone. Um, there's not this competitiveness that's there in the world today for obvious reasons because resources are limited. But how we look at these small things is very important. Like you have to, if you work from a place of insecurity, that's where you make certain fear-driven decisions,
Decisions.
which
Hmm.
which may or may not be helpful. So just being aware of what mindset you are operating from is very essential. Sometimes you need to be competitive. Like in sport, you can't tell me that look at the big picture and I'm not going to focus on winning. I can tell this to athletes, they're going to tell me, okay, you don't know how to work. But
Hmm.
winning is sometimes the finite the finite games that we play like sport. Winning is essential for that thing, but again you have to see the bigger picture of who you are becoming in the process. Are you becoming this fear driven, arrogant, anxious person to become that elite athlete or that elite
Hmm.
person in the world? Or are you going with a more positive approach that some point of time I will reach there and there is enough for everybody and I'm going to give it my best? So this is more
Hmm.
healthier for you as a person. It's not to prove to anybody else. It's about you and
Hmm.
you being mentally healthy and happy. So yeah.
Hmm. I think that this section that you have answered so far is the best, the most perfect thing that I've had to hear in a very long time. I'm really happy that this question came up and you have answered it. But just to extend on this, if you look at all the greatest of all time athletes, be it Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, or in swimming, even in cricket, uh, I think the way they have ended up in their life after their sports careers are over, after they have retired, I think this shows that all of this achievement and fame came from a sense of insecurity. But still, again, they do end up achieving those things. So isn't it contradictory that even if people want to play infinite game where I'm reciprocating to my team players and there's more to achieve than that, but I won't reach that level of Michael Jordan. But then Michael Jordan has achieved it and he has become like that. So do you get the trade-off that the person is getting? So how would I don't know how to put this as a question, but are you understanding what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I let me also reiterate so that I know where you're going with this. So the kind of lives that athletes live post their
Retirement.
yeah,
Hmm.
post their playing time or their retirement, you feel that their their careers were driven from insecurity, is what
Yes.
you were saying.
Yes.
Okay. Is that's
Exactly.
because after they retire, they tend to become sour about it, or how do they
Yeah,
behave?
they like to relive their own glory and continue living their life, number one. And the other part would be, would it justify that since a person of that level has reached that level in that sport, does that mean insecurity is the only key to that success? Because जो नहीं कर रहा है वो level तक तो पहुंच नहीं रहा है. Not everybody is Michael Jordan. You get what I'm saying? But Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan because he is deeply insecure.
Mm,
I mean, obviously there are exceptions. Like when you look at Sachin, there is, I mean, at least as a viewer, we don't see insecurity in Sachin or in Virat. But when you see, I don't know which player is at the top of my mind, but you understand what I'm trying to say. When it's Michael Jordan in the documentary on Netflix, it is like quite evident that how he has led his life after retirement. This is getting very complex, I understand, but I'm still trying to push the limit over here, because to some extent I do lean on this side, looking at observing the greatest of all times, that insecurity is something, is the best motivator, because they know that even again Michael Jordan, even if I score x number of points in one season, that is not enough. I want to do more, I want to do more.
Yeah.
So
But,
just in case if you can contradict, so that would be good.
mm, I'm not looking to contradict. I'm actually trying to understand the the context of this question,
Hmm.
because if the person is insecure or not, firstly, I wouldn't always know, because that's within him or herself. That it shows up in behavior. You tend to get a different mindset when you are living from insecurity and you're not okay sharing the limelight. You want all the attention. I get, I do get that. And I am, I'm not really sure if the greatest of all times have lived from a perspective of insecurity, but
Hmm.
in my mind, they've all lived from a position of creating a legacy. Like they
Hmm.
want to be known to be the best in their sport.
Hmm.
Um, sure, they must have faced situations where they felt scared of the situation or whatever. I don't know their lives really well.
Hmm.
But fear does drive you. But I don't think you can reach that level of being the greatest of all time consistently on insecurity, because that part of you will come out in some way, shape, or form in your
Hmm.
relationships, not in sport, but it may come out in your relationships. It may come out in the way you handle work or
Hmm.
opportunities. So, you as a person, apart from being an athlete, also really matters. Be it anything.
Hmm.
Use the same context somewhere else. If you are
Hmm.
if you're a businessman, if you're insecure about your business, it's going to show up in different areas of your life, and that is the litmus test of how you are. So
Hmm.
if I deep dive into the lives of those greatest of all times, then maybe I might know if they're operating from a place of insecurity, and still I may not be sure.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, long story short, insecurity can drive them, but I don't think you can create legacy based on insecurity alone. There is this deep desire to create an impact, to make a difference in the lives of people, and that's the biggest motivator of.
That does conclude. Uh, Now, Parinaaz, we have talked about full potential. We what and we have you have already talked about the ways a person can achieve full potential. But now, talking about drawbacks, there are always the drawbacks that you said. External circumstances or something unforeseen has happened to their life. I mean, obviously, if it's unforeseen and it's not under the person's control. But what are the limiting factors or the drawbacks that the person itself, or himself or herself imposes on himself, that restricts the person from achieving full potential? Like the usual that you get to see, के self doubt है, या jealousy है किसी से, या etc etc.
Mm. Right. Uh, the reasons usually why people find themselves limiting themselves is one, others may around them uh, have told them that this is the situation you can expect. For example, there was this, it's called the 4 minute mile example. Basically, for the longest time, people believed that nobody could run 1 mile in under 4 minutes.
Hmm.
But there, it was broken. That record was broken. And after that, a lot of athletes broke it as well. Till then, everybody believed कि नहीं हो सकता है. And that's the limiting belief that we all place on ourselves. कि you cannot do it only. Now, if consistently in your childhood or wherever you are, there is this belief that goes around that you can only achieve this much, then you tend to only put that much effort, right? Why would you even think beyond and above? So that's one limiting belief which comes from the external, and that's what you internalize. You believe it on a bigger picture. And then once you start believing it, you start putting limitations on your own self as well. Okay, I'll put only this much effort. Probably it's not worth it. This and that. So the way you're thinking about it, the way you're talking to yourself, puts that cap on yourself. But in the end, there is no cap. It's all self-created and society created. And the faster we realize it, the better it is. And that's how all these world record holders, they are existing, and they will continue to break records because they have not kept themselves subject to those limiting beliefs. And that needs to be broken. I know there are certain things which are physically possible or not possible. But then again, who's to say? The 4-minute mile proved it also.
So this is the only limiting factor that keeps a person away from achieving full potential.
That's one for sure. And this is tied into a lot more things. Like obviously, if you doubt self, as you said, self-doubt creeps in when you fail. I think one important thing is when you fail, as the end all, that if I fail, something massive has happened. But recently, I've also learned that failure is a part of success. If you don't fail, you can never succeed. Only if I fail at doing something will I know how I can do it better. So a very interesting question for you as well. What's the opposite of success? I don't know what you would say, but what's the opposite of success?
I do have an answer to it actually. And I've been thinking about this since quite some time now. I don't know if I'll keep this in this recording or not, but since we have already talking in these lines, I'll share. I am at this stage of my life where I have figured my life, if not completely, then nearly there. No, and this is because I know this is very early to say from if you're listening to this, because if I'm 25 or somebody is 24, 26, and if that person is claiming that they have figured their life completely, then bolega ki yaar pagal ho gaya. There is no possible way to have figured their life completely. But I am certain that I have, reason being that I believe in the paradox of failure. So in order to be able to figure out what you don't like and like, you have to fail. And you have to continue that process until you figure out. And when you have figured it out, you won't fail anymore. You get what I'm saying? This is the paradox of failure that I've had since a majority of life, because there have things that I've tried. I mean, I can go deeper in this if you want to listen, but I'm just making it a huge claim. So let's talk about how I reached doing the podcast. Okay, primary. I'll take my life in the reverse direction from 25 to downwards. I reached the podcast for the reason that when I started my law school, a 3-year law course, I went around doing stand up. For 6 months, I used to do open mics once or twice a month, and I did it for 6 months. I realized that I'm not a funny person. Not in a way that I'm not really funny, but in a way that the audience wants me to be funny. I'm not. नहीं है वो मेरे में. Okay. So I gave that option away. Then came the college wala part where there are events, right? College fest होते रहते हैं, and then I did the emceeing part. I was like, huh, this is in my zone, right? I don't have the pressure to be funny. I don't have to be funny, particularly. And there is a combination of a little bit formality which involves it, calling out the guest, etc. And
Right.
the other part is just to have a little bit laughter. I can act silly and get a bit laughter. So there is that part is also taken care of. So I'm like, oh,
Right.
this is something I can do, and I started doing that, and I did that very well. Now what
Right.
happened is उसके बाद lockdown आ गया. So the moment I knew that I liked MC, I couldn't continue it. So again, that stopped because of an external factor.
Yes.
Now when it comes to this podcasting, when things were like we were in the lockdown, I'm like, listen, see, the mic के साथ obsession तो मेरे को पहले से था, right from school. I like doing that public speaking and stuff. And when the lockdown started in March, I came across and obviously YouTube चालू किया and देखा कि there is something called podcast. Okay, podcast होता क्या है? कि यार, it is a long form of conversation. Okay, like this is nice. So देखा and I was like fascinated कि अच्छा, people can have a discourse and disagree with each other and yet go home happily. Because
Yeah.
अगर disagreements हो रहे, people usually turn out to be bitter कि यार, how come he or she is not agreeing to my point of view. But over here, it wasn't the case. I'm like, okay, this is nice. So I imagined कि okay, this is something I can do. यहाँ पे तो मुझे external fest की भी जरूरत नहीं. I
Mm.
can do my own thing. Like all I have to do is invite the guests that I find interesting to talk to. So that is something I have to take care of. बातें तो now again यहाँ तक तो सब ठीक था, okay, which was all external, which was a skill based. Now it gets integrated with my law degree. How that whenever a guest has to come, obviously I cannot ask him or her to tell me what should we talk about. No, I can ask for little bit input, but not complete input. Guest भी सोचेगा यार कि ये कर क्या रहे तो फिर. So now the law degree comes in, how that in as lawyers we are taught to research, right, and to contradict and to
Mm.
prove and be advocate of our own points that what I am saying is right.
Right.
So research factored in, critical thinking factored in. That is why I'm able to contradict you and yet come up with more questions, trying to critically break down what you are saying. So wo
Right.
skill I guess. So okay, this got factored in. Two things got factored in. Okay, and something came up, and so yeah, something came up, and this is beautiful. Like even if we disagree today on something, you won't have be bitter कि यार मन ने ऐसा बोल दिया, and I won't be bitter कि परिनाज ने मेरे को motivation जो बोला ना वो convincing answer नहीं दिया, something like that.
Mm.
But
Mm.
so that is where that failure wala paradox. Now I know what to do. Now I don't think I'll fail in this arena. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I will have to make incremental changes, which is
Mm.
obviously a part and parcel of the process. But ऐसा कुछ massive, devastating, catastrophic कुछ होने वाला है नहीं, because I figured the game, right? So this is the
Yeah.
paradox that I have figured, and I mean this is a very small example that I gave, but even personally, which I don't want to share with you right now on this recording. But
Okay.
that is what my life has been. It has been a paradox of failures, and I am certain now that I won't have to see as many failures as I have seen previously. So what you said, that what success is, I don't think there is success. It is a complete paradox. And once you figure out things, all you have to do is make incremental changes. That's it.
Okay. Absolutely. And I do agree with you. And um, that's where people falter, where they want to constantly hit the peak every single time, where they don't understand that those small steps ahead to get there, they consider that probably as failures, where 90 mph was my goal and I hit an 80, that's failure. That's where I was also, I don't know if I'm on the same track as you are. I understand where you're coming from, that probably there is no success in general.
Mm,
um, and failure is just there, and there is a, and once you hit it, there is incremental change, sorry,
yeah.
incremental improvement. So yeah, I think failure is something that is really negative in our society, and I am a big not victim, but I did make myself a victim to that thought process, where I used to believe that failure is the worst thing that can happen, because I had or I still have a perfectionistic mindset where I want things done correctly. Like there needs to be a set way, because the standards I set for myself are way too high sometimes. And when I fail, it's just the end of the world. This was what my mindset was. It's much more in control, but I understand now better that failure is important for me to actually get to the place where I need to be. And that's where I was getting at, that the opposite of success is not really failure, but it's actually quitting. Because when you quit, you're actually out of the game altogether. You've left the battlefield and just left. So there is nothing as success and failure. There's nobody winning or losing. There is no game. But when you're in the game, there is only a probability of you not hitting a certain target, trying again, you not hitting a certain target, trying again, hitting a certain target, setting a higher one, not hitting it, trying again. It's kind of like a game of life that's constantly going on. So
Right. Yeah, and that is the thing, right? Why I say it is a paradox, that is because people want to succeed, yet they're afraid of failure. And if they fail, they think that they cannot succeed. No,
yeah.
so that is why I call it a paradox. And I think, and to again build on that, there is this thing one of my friends told me, that if you think that you have a great idea dropped in your mind, in the next 48 hours you should at least do one step towards making it uh, uh, a reality. So if I wanted to start my podcast, let's say आज ही मेरे को idea आया, then within 48 hours मैं एटलीस्ट माइक तो ले लूँ, इतना तो मैं कर ही सकता हूँ ना, राइट? और एटलीस्ट मैं जूम सब्सक्रिप्शन ले लूँ या वीडियो एडिटर ले लूँ, एटलीस्ट वन थिंग. So it has, that is what it has become now, like when you say. So the reason we are talking today right now is because I made incremental changes in that process. Initially, the only guests that had come were my close friends or people I've known, and now I'm approaching unknown people, sending them cold mails. People are responding, and people, when they see the consistency, there is also a trust built. कि अच्छा ये बंदा regularly कर रहा है, so we can trust him. It's not that it's a one-time whims and fancies wala thing. So it has come a long way, and this is the happiest at that have been doing this. Yeah. So you're talking about the drawbacks, right? And full potential. Parinaaz, when I was pursuing my bachelor's in commerce, we had this subject. I don't remember the subject's name, uh, but there was this concept that is like clearly stuck in my mind till date. It is the concept of stress and eustress. Okay, for people, those who don't know what is the difference between stress and eustress, you explain it, and then I'll ask the following question.
Yeah. Stress is defined as where your demand on you from the situation is much higher than what you can cope with. So basically, if you are put into a situation where you, as a person, you can only lift 10 kilos, and if I ask you to lift 12 kilos, then that period is basically physical stress, but you might also feel mental stress because the demand is higher than what you can do. It's like being asked to step out of your comfort zone, basically. Now, eustress is that part of, now when you look at stress and its relationship with performance, when you've got a level of stress which is helpful for performance, where that really puts you in a place that, okay, I can push myself harder, I can be motivated, like let's use the term motivated loosely, but I can push myself to get there, and that's eustress, where you are positive, that stress is positively pushing you to do better. Distress is when the demand is way too high and your performance is deteriorating because of that. So that's distress. So that's your answer.
Difference, right? Now, obviously, if a person wants to achieve full potential, there will be stress involved, right? Because there will be days when the person does not want to do that, particular task for that day, and yet expect results. So, how do you deal with stress, eustress, and de-stress in such a situation? When is it that you can claim, acha, you can do this, but there will be stress, yet you will be able to deal with it because you have the capacity to deal with it, or you have developed a capacity?
whenever we're doing a particular task, new or something that you're building on, there is this self-regulatory mechanism that's going on within us. We judge the situation or whatever challenge is in front of us. Then we see what we can do, what is our capacity. So there is a lot of there's a lot of awareness that's going on, planning, plotting that's going on in our head about how you can approach this challenge the best. So in that process, if you believe that you cannot deal with this challenge, that's when the distress sets in anyways, even before trying. So that's on the psychological side of things, where you've already put that belief in your head that what's nahi ho payega. So when you are given a particular task, it could be new or it could be something that you're building upon. Now, we are always looking at the challenge or whatever task is there. We are self-regulating, self-monitoring, understanding what are our resources that we have. How do I have the physical energy, mental energy, the experience, the ability, the intelligence, whatever. We use all of that. We understand ourselves for that. Then we look at the task. We look at what are the demands of the task. And then we try and understand, am I able to do it or am I able to not do it? Basically, in a nutshell. So when I think chalo, we can try pushing hard, it's not that difficult. It also comes a lot from the attitude you hold. It's not only just this analysis, but when you are able to push yourself and go for it, there is eustress. The stress is pushing you to do better. It's putting you in a positive mindset. And it's when there's distress is when you believe that the resources that you have is much lesser than what is required for the task, and you automatically, probably psychologically, only give up. And that's the self-limiting belief that we were talking about. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Parinaaz, how long have you been working in this industry?
I had started working in March 2020, so it's about 2 years that I can consider as just working as a psychologist. The experiences have been different because I was in UK for half the time. So in India, I am coming up to about 9 to 10 months of work. So yeah, there are different experiences that I've had so far working with athletes from different sports. Like I work with predominantly right now in India, I'm working with cricket players, but also other golf athletes and badminton athletes. Back in the UK, I was playing with I was working with a football team as well as the athletics, track and field athletes. So yeah, a good mix of experiences I've had so far, but a long way to go for sure.
So you regularly deal with cricketers, golf players, and which is the third one you said? Badminton players. Mm-hmm. And do you wish to expand in any other niches which fascinates you apart from sports? Okay, let's say, I don't know what example should I give? Or can you share like an artist, for example, अब guitarist है ऐसा कुछ है या people with fancy degrees like lawyers and accountancy and MBAs and ऐसा कुछ, do you intend to expand there?
Yeah. So when I was working interning back in UK, my company used to deal with a lot of business owners or VPs or directors because those are also performance areas.
Right.
High stress, a lot of demands. How do you actually attain those performances that you have to do on a daily basis? Because at the end of the day, you ask yourself, what are you being judged on in any endeavor you do at work? Performance. You don't perform, either you're out or you're demoted, or in fact, forget all of this, you're not satisfied. So at the end of the day, you yourself are not happy as a person. So my work is very flexible in performance areas. I haven't worked yet with performing artists, like singers or dancers or drama in the drama field. But I am working with a few students, in fact, on how they can manage their exam stress really well. So that's also a performance area, right? Where you are giving competitive exams. And it's not only about like GREs or GMATs or whatever. It's not only about you having the knowledge, it's about how you can manage your anxiety well in the time frame. If you do a mistake, how do you deal with it?
Hmm.
What skills you can use to keep yourself centered. Those things really well
Wow.
give everyone. Yeah.
That
You
that that's a that is a great spectrum of people that you're dealing with.
yeah, thank you. So yeah,
Uh,
it's enjoyable. I am looking to expand. As I said, I've also been working not with clients per se, but on projects within exercise field as well. Like how does exercise work? How can you get people more inclined towards working out, being fit in our
hmm.
sedentary lives? That's an important. There's also the extreme, right? People who indulge in overindulgence in exercise or having disordered eating behaviors. All those things are also included. So I'm interested in all those. So I'm trying to get into projects in those areas as
Wow. So that's a great vision you have there. And one last question I have for you is, how did you come up with your branding, which says that you're a peak performance psychologist and not a sports psychologist, which is like plain. I mean, it does convey the message that what you do, but it is plain. Do you know what I mean? So,
well.
ye
Yes.
peak performance psychologist wala ye, how did you come up with that branding?
To be very candid and honest with you, that's come from my internship in the UK, and that was my designation given to me in the UK, and that's where I learned that I can brand myself in a better way. Second is also that I am not a licensed sport and exercise psychologist because there's a licensure that we need to gain in the West, at least in the UK, in the US. To be called a psychologist, you really need to go undergo exams and a number of hours of training. So, from an ethical or from a professional standpoint as well, I believe that performance psychologist is usually the term that um, the professionals in my field use. So I
Hmm.
used these are the two reasons why I have combined it, and I think it's working really well. So it doesn't restrict me, because I am working, as I said, not only in sport but also in other areas. So working as a performance psychologist helps me explain better what I do.
That's a great conversation we have had so far, and I am really glad that we could do this. And thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I cannot tell you how in depth you've gone into those questions. It's not just been uh, like surface level chats and on and off the camera, because I really enjoyed getting to know you and what your journey has been with the podcast. And thanks for this opportunity. I really enjoyed uh, really speaking about what my experiences and my knowledge has been. So thank you so much.